I never expected to find a little homeless girl at my door. Her tears changed my life forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like any other Tuesday. The sun peeked through the curtains, bathing the room in a soft golden light. I brewed my coffee, its rich aroma filling the air. I thought the day would be just another mundane routine. But then, a knock on the door shattered the calm. When I opened it, a small figure stood there. A girl. No more than 6, maybe. Her hair was tangled, a mess of knots, and her clothes were ragged. She looked up at me with big, scared eyes, glistening with unshed tears. My heart raced. Her breath came in quick bursts, the kind that told a story of fear and hunger. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaky, "I need help." Everything trembled inside, not just fear, but compassion, a deep urge to protect her. The world around us faded, I could hear only the frantic thumping of my heart. I found myself kneeling, looking into those tear-filled eyes. They were like dark pools, reflecting pain, hunger, and something deeper, desperation. Her small hands trembled as she clutched a stuffed rabbit, its fur worn and patchy. It looked like it had seen way too many storms. "Where are your parents?" I asked, my voice cracking. The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. She shook her head, a single tear falling, glistening in the morning light. I don't know." Her words hit me like a punch. No child should be alone. I could feel the warmth of my kitchen, the safety of my home, contrasting with the coldness that surrounded her outdoors. I stepped back, letting her in. The door creaked as it closed behind her, sealing away the world outside. I could feel the weight of the moment, the gravity of this simple act. But I feared what it meant. I offered her a seat at the kitchen table, the one that had been filled with laughter and warmth for years. But now it felt hollow, a stage for her silent struggle. I could hear echoes of my own childhood family dinners, arguments, hugs. But she sat there, small, silent, a world away from my memories. "Do you want something to eat?" I asked, forcing the words out. She nodded slowly, eyes wide and hopeful. I made toast, butter melting and the scent filling the air. But as I turned around, my stomach knotted. What horrors had she seen? What battles had she fought just to stand here? "Tell me what happened," I pleaded softly, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked down, fiddling with the rabbit's ear. "It was dark," she murmured, her voice barely a breath. "They left me." A chill ran up my spine. Left? Abandoned? My mind raced. How could someone do that? I felt a surge of fierce protectiveness, a desperate urge to shield her from the cruelty out there. But the weight of the moment was heavy, and I knew this wasn't just a simple rescue. I was standing at a crossroads. My life was about to change forever. Then, just before I could ask more, a loud crash echoed from outside. My heart dropped. I rushed to the window, peering out. A van screeched to a halt. My hands trembled. Shadows moved inside, dark, looming figures. My breath caught. I turned to the girl, wide-eyed. "We need to hide." What were they doing here? My heart raced in my chest, pounding like a drum. Time stopped, adrenaline surged, and with it came the chilling realization I had let her in, but now, was I putting us both in danger? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. My heart raced as the figures outside shifted, their intentions shrouded in darkness. I turned to the little girl, whose pallor had paled even further. Come on, we need to find a place to hide. She nodded, trembling, clutching her stuffed rabbit as if it were the only source of comfort in the storm that had descended upon us. I led her away from the kitchen table, where remnants of normalcy lay abandoned. As we crouched behind the sofa, I could hear the muffled chaos outside the heavy footsteps of the figures, their voices a cacophony of urgency and menace. What's going on? Her small voice trembled, and I could see the fear in her eyes a mirror to my own. I longed to offer her reassurance, to tell her we were safe, yet I felt as if I were on the precipice of something much darker that I don't know, but well figure it out, I whispered, attempting to sound braver than I felt. My mind raced, spinning webs of scenarios that tightened around my chest, making it hard to breathe. I could feel the weight of her presence beside me, a burden and a blessing, an anchor in the rapid current of fear. Suddenly, I heard a loud bang against the door and froze. Our small sanctuary felt insubstantial, like a flimsy curtain separating us from a raging storm. The girl flinched beside me, her wide eyes overflowing with tears. I took a deep breath, the scent of old upholstery mixing with the smell of the toast that now seemed so distant, a lunch from another life. Please, don't cry, I whispered, brushing a lock of hair from her forehead. We'll be okay. Just keep quiet. The door rattled again, louder this time, and with it came a thick tension that gripped my heart. I felt a surge of protectiveness wash over me. Whoever was outside, I would face them. For her, just as I felt my resolve solidify, the voices grew clearer. We know she's in there, shouted one, slicing through the air with a threat that turned my blood cold. You can't protect her. She belongs with us. Panic gnawed at my insides. Who were they? It sounded as if they were searching for this innocent child, a mere girl who had already faced too much. I couldn't let them take her. They didn't understand her spirit, they didn't see the flicker of hope still alive in her timid heart. That I glanced around, searching for anything that could shield us. The coffee table caught my eye, and the idea formed quickly. I need you to be very quiet and very brave, okay? I whispered urgently. We're going to move to the other room. As she nodded, I could almost feel her heart pulse in sync with my own, wild and desperate. Carefully, we edged away from the sofa, and I motioned to the hallway. Each footstep felt like an echo, almost louder than the chaos outside. We reached the bathroom and I closed the door quietly, holding my breath in the suffocating silence. Only the sound of her soft whimpers filled the space. I crouched beside her, squeezing her shoulder gently. I'll keep you safe. I promise. But even as I spoke, doubt squirmed within me. What if I couldn't protect her? The nagging thought clawed at my insides. I remembered my own life, so neatly compartmentalized before her arrival: work, friends, solitude, each moment overshadowed by guilt and memories of things I couldn't change. And yet now, her innocence awakened something within me that longed to be more, something that sought purpose in the midst of chaos. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps stormed through the house. The door creaked open, followed by a voice that pierced the air like a knife. This is your last chance, just give her to us. My heart pounded louder than ever. They can't take you, I murmured to her, every word laced with conviction that I hardly felt. Well, figure this out. But even as I offered comfort, a horrifying realization dawned upon me. What if it was true? What if they were her family, or worse, part of a system where I was just delaying the inevitable? Time ticked by, thick with dread, and my thoughts spiraled. Each beep of the clock on the wall felt like a countdown. I squeezed the girl's hand tightly, knowing that we were running out of time. Nothing could prepare me for the moment when, without warning, the door burst open. A figure loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the soft glow of the hall lights, a shadow with a purpose, and the breath stilled in my throat. My mind raced. How do I protect this child from someone who may want her back? And then, in that fractured moment, a shocking realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. Not all family is made from love, some are woven from threads of fear and desperation. As that truth echoed in my mind, the figure took a step forward, and with it came an innocuous yet daunting question that clawed its way to the surface: how far would I go to save her? The figure stepped into the small room, and in the soft light, I recognized him. It was James, a familiar face from the community center where I volunteered occasionally. His usual disarming smile had vanished, replaced by a grim determination. "That I need you to step aside," he said, his voice steady but low. "I know she's in here. It's for her own good. What good can come from tearing her away from someone who cares about her?" I shot back, every fiber of my being ignited with defiance. The girl beside me trembled, her small body pressed against the cold tile wall as if trying to meld into its surface. James' eyes softened for just a moment, but he quickly hardened again. "You don't understand. This isn't what it looks like. They're dangerous, and they're coming for her." "Dangerous?" I echoed, my heart swelling with fierceness, each beat a declaration that I wouldn't let him take her. "I have to protect her. She's scared, and she needs someone to stand by her right now." "Then let me help you," he urged, glancing back toward the door nervously. "You don't know what will happen if they find her first." "Help me?" I laughed, the sound bitter on my tongue. "Why should I trust anyone now? You're one of them. You know what they want. No, that's the point." "I know too much," he said more urgently, taking a step closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "This child is at the center of something bigger than both of us. She's not just in danger from them, she's in danger because of what she represents. You need to understand that." As I searched his face for clues, I felt the weight of his words pressing down on me. There was an urgency in his tone that hinted at countless sleepless nights and impossible choices. He was offering me a lifeline, though I didn't know how to reach for it. The girl squeezed my hand, her trust in me evident, and suddenly the stakes felt impossibly high. "Please, trust me," James continued, desperation edging his words. "If you let her go, I can protect her. I can make sure none of this touches her. But you have to let me take her away from here. No. I said firmly, shaking my head. "I won't let you take her anywhere. One way or another, I'm going to keep her safe." James sighed, frustration flickering across his features. "You might think you're keeping her safe, but you could be leading her right to them. They won't stop until they find her, and she won't have a chance if you don't let me help." A sudden crash from the hallway jolted us, and the girl whimpered, clutching tighter to my side. I could hear the voices outside again, the menacing chants creeping closer. I felt the panic rising in my chest. Time was slipping away. "Okay, what do we do?" I voiced my doubt aloud, locking eyes with James as if asking for a plan, a beacon of hope in this storm. "We have to move now." He reached for my arm, and instinctively I pulled back, needing to think, but something in his gaze reiterated that I couldn't simply stand still. "Well, head out the back and wait." I interrupted, a thought seizing me. "What do you know about her? Who are they?" Before he could answer, the door shuddered under a strong impact from the other side, sending a jolt of dread surging through me. "I can't let them take her," I muttered, more to myself than to James, who looked increasingly uneasy. "Did I get that?" he said, his voice tinged with urgency. "But think about what might happen to her if you keep fighting. Every conversation leads us deeper into chaos, and we're running out of time. Don't you care about her future?" Tension suffocated the air as I paused, grappling with the weight of his words. For a moment, I considered the unthinkable. What if his intentions, however convoluted, were genuinely motivated by her safety? The thought itched at my conscience, but the protective instinct was strong. Then there was a soft knock at the door, gentle but fraught with foreboding. Everyone in the room froze, hearts thudding like distant drums. "Let her go, please," a strangled voice called from beyond the threshold, and to my shock, it was a woman's voice filled with despair yet somehow echoing warmth that resonated deep within me. My blood ran cold. "Mommy?" The little girl breathed, a mixture of hope and fear reflecting in her eyes. The world tilted on its axis as the realization struck me her mother was looking for her. "Get back," James warned, stepping between me and the door. "Do not open it," but I couldn't move. The woman on the other side was desperate. Confusion clouded my thoughts, and deep inside, a conflict raged. Could she truly be the girl's mother? It felt like standing on the edge, gazing down into an abyss of uncertainty. One thing was clear, the shadows were closing in, and choices had to be made, fast. And in that defining moment, the choice wasn't just mine to make anymore. The room pulsed with an uneasy silence, every breath laden with the weight of unspoken fears and the ghost of choices yet to be made. I stood frozen, torn between the desperate plea of the woman outside and the realization that our sanctuary was crumbling. Please, I promise, I just want to hold her. Just for a moment. The woman's voice quivered again, cracking like ice under pressure. It was hauntingly familiar, echoing with the kind of longing only a mother could wield. Stay back. James insisted, shifting his weight as if preparing to dart toward the door, his protective instincts clashing against my own burgeoning hope that it really her. I whispered, disbelief clawing at my insides. What if it's a trap? A dull thud reverberated through the walls, a stark reminder that time was a luxury we didn't possess. The girl, still clinging to my side, looked up at me with wide, glistening eyes. Her hope ignited something deep within me, a flicker of sentiment wrestling with the cold realities pressuring in. Let me just hear her, I said, my voice firmer now, even as my heart raced. My fingers trembled, but I extended a hand toward the door, as if it could bridge the chasm between fear and certainty. Seriously? You can't be considering this. James shot back, panic coloring his words. She might not be who she says she is, James, please. You said they're dangerous. Why would they have left her mother out here? I countered, desperation mingling with stubborn resolve. We don't know their game. Open that door, and it could be the last thing we do. His voice wavered, confusion mingling with his urgency. The risks, no risks can compare to the anguish of that child, I interrupted, my heart thundering aloud, daring him to challenge the truth in my words. James hesitated, his gaze falling to the girl once more. In that fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of understanding cross his face, a delicate weave of empathy tempered by fear. Please, let her in, I whispered, moisture collecting at the corner of my eyes, the steel of my resolve glimmering with every breath. I could almost feel the weight of each decision, dragging us deeper into uncertainty. This wasn't just about safety, it was about love and the bonds that tethered us all together, however tenuous they might be, and suddenly, as if the world decided to bend at my will, I reached for the doorknob, my heart thrumming in tandem with the whispers of hope. Turning it ever so slowly, breath caught in my throat, I opened the door just a crack. Mommy? The girl's voice broke through like sunlight piercing the darkest storm. I'm here, baby. The woman's voice trembled with emotion, every syllable a thread pulling at the edges of my heart. Just let me in. As I eased the door open wider, a rush of warmth washed over me, igniting the tremors of longing I'd kept tightly contained. The woman stepped into the light, her face flushed with fervent love combined with undeniable weariness. There was desperation in her eyes that echoed too closely with my own worries, not just for the girl, but for the world around us that felt all too willing to shatter. Mommy. The girl rushed forward, and without a second thought, the two collided in an embrace that spoke of unspoken months apart, of longing and fear distilled into this single moment of reunion. But before I could breathe a sigh of relief, a figure emerged behind the woman, just outside the frame of my darkened doorway. A tall silhouette, cloaked in shadow, hovered like an ominous cloud, blocking the light that spilled into the small room. Step aside, the figure commanded, voice dripping with authority. The word sent chills racing down my spine as my body instinctively went rigid. Who are you? I demanded, unwilling to surrender to intimidation. What do you want? Back off, James urged, his tone hardening. This is no place for threats. Maybe it is. Maybe it's exactly where we need to be, the figure replied, his tone chillingly calm, as if the stakes had just risen to an unbearable level. You're protecting something you shouldn't. That girl was never meant to be yours. With every word that left his lips, my heart sank deeper into an abyss of dread. The warm reunion before me felt like a mirage, flickering as reality threatened to swallow us whole. The room pulsed with tension, the echoes of an uncertain future pressing in on us, the stakes higher than I'd ever fathomed. Then the shadows began to shift, and I realized there were more figures emerging from the darkness, encroaching upon the sanctuary I'd tried so desperately to create. The atmosphere thickened with urgency, and I clenched my fists, trying to hold my ground despite the tremors threatening to shake me apart. The girl stepped closer to her mother, instinctively seeking protection, and I wondered just how intricately their fates were woven together. Could I still protect them both? The weight of uncertainty lay heavily upon my chest, and as the figures advanced, the truth rushed at me like a tidal wave. This confrontation would unveil depths I wasn't yet ready to face. Get ready, I thought, heart thrumming fiercely, because whatever's coming next is going to change everything. The air thickened, an electric charge crackling with each breath I took. The figures loomed larger, shadows bending reality into something more ominous, like an all-consuming storm that would erase the fragile peace I had fought so hard to create. I felt the weight of their gaze, each pair of eyes piercing into the heart of my resolve. Why are you here? I demanded, my voice trembling slightly despite my efforts to sound unyielding. Enough, the dark figure shot back, asserting himself like the weight of the world rested solely on his shoulders. You are not equipped to handle this situation. His words hung in the air, heavy with a certainty that gnawed at my already frayed edges. But I wouldn't back down. Not when there was a little girl standing behind me, her innocent hopes entwined with mine like strands of precious silk. You don't get to dictate what happens here, I replied, clenching my fists tighter until my knuckles turned white. Then consider this, everything has consequences, he stated, a chilling smile creeping across his lips. You chose to open that door, now you must live with the fallout. Just as I braced myself for the interaction to escalate, an unexpected voice broke through the turmoil. Please, just let us go. We don't want any trouble. The woman who had looked so fragile a moment ago faced the encroaching darkness with a newfound fierceness. Desperation etched across her features. With trembling hands, she pulled the girl deeper behind her, as if to shield her from the unseen force that threatened to tear them apart once more. It's too late for you. The consequences of your choices are already in motion, the figure replied, his tone laced with menace. This girl is not what she seems. And you have no idea what you're standing in the path of. My heart raced as uncertainty coiled around my thoughts, tightening like a noose. What did he mean? Each moment passed like an eternity, playing out in slow motion. I glanced back at the girl, whose wide, innocent eyes mirrored the storm brewing within me. Mommy, what's happening? She asked, her voice a fragile whisper, innocence quaking under the unyielding pressure of the moment. Nothing, sweetheart, the woman replied, but the tremor in her voice revealed that this was anything but a benign situation. Who are you? I pressed again, demanding answers. Merely someone who has come to collect what is owed. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. The child has a purpose. And your attachment to her has put both your lives in jeopardy. A murmur rippled through the group, a flicker of confusion and fear evident as the others exchanged glances, as if weighing his words against their innate sense of loyalty. My gut twisted uneasily, the tension crackling like static in the air as I sensed troubles trailing behind them. We will not be taken without a fight, James growled, his protective instincts igniting. Whatever your game is, we want play. There's the fight I was hoping for, the figure said, his eyes gleaming with sinister delight. But this is not a game. It's a reckoning. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed outside, followed by a series of distant shouts that reverberated inside our sanctuary. I turned involuntarily toward the sound, my pulse quickening as fear coursed through me. What was that? Your reckoning, the figure replied, dark satisfaction lacing his voice. A game played across territories you dare not traverse. James took a step closer to me, instinctively pressing himself against me in a protective motion. This is about more than just us, he whispered urgently, urgency cutting through the tension as the sounds outside intensified. We need to move, but the moment I opened my mouth to speak, the little girl clutched her mother's hand tighter, her small body trembling. I don't want to leave her again, she said, tears spilling down her cheeks as she looked up at her mother with a mix of fear and love that shattered something deep inside me. Sweetheart, I promise, he'll always find you, the mother said, but the weight of her words felt like an ominous vow shrouded in doubt. We just need to be brave for a little while longer, the outside world erupted in chaos as doors slammed, feet pounding across the ground like a war drum echoing closer. My heart twisted at the thought of our sanctuary crumbling around us. Because if that's true, I finally realized aloud, then we won't be the only ones suffering from the consequences of a choice made in blind hope. The figure's smile widened menacingly. You're starting to understand. As I felt the darkness closing in, a surprising flicker of defiance surged through me. I had to protect the girl and her mother not just from the immediate threat, but from the revelations looming on the periphery of our reality. I had to be their shield, even if the weight of it threatened to crush me. Then, an unexpected gust of wind exploded through the half-open door, ripping the curtain fabric and swirling debris into our fortress. I stumbled back, caught off guard as the chaos intensified, shadows swirling like a storm. In that moment of vulnerability, a strange warmth surged from within me, a force of hope illuminated through the deep uncertainty. I knew I had to rally all the strength I could muster, but just as I steeled myself for what came next, the ominous figure raised his arm, signaling his companions to close in, and an unsettling sense of foreboding cascaded around us. The last thing I heard before I felt the world shift was the little girl's anguished whisper echoing in my ears, "Don't leave me," and in that moment, with darkness encroaching ever closer, I realized how little time we had left to choose our next steps with hope against despair. The screech of the wind was almost drowned out by the hammering of my heart as darkness closed in on us, an unseen weight pressing against my chest. The figure's cohorts advanced, their intentions glaringly clear. I glanced wildly around the room, searching for an escape route, a shred of light that could guide us away from this gathering storm. Yet, the stakes had never felt higher. "Stay close!" I shouted to the little girl and her mother, fear-laced urgency fueling my voice. James repositioned himself, muscles taut as he braced for confrontation, ready to protect us all, but uncertainty lingered in the shadows. The figure chuckled, a sound that made my skin crawl. "Running isn't the answer. You've already unleashed the storm. You can't escape from what's coming." He gestured expansively, as if welcoming the chaos suddenly swirling around us. Enough. I was surprised at the sudden ferocity that gripped me as I stepped forward, grounding my feet like roots in the earth. "We will not be your pawns." In a moment, the air seemed to shift, the sound of breaking glass echoing from somewhere beyond our rapidly disintegrating haven. Uncertainty clenched at my insides, but in that fragility, I felt something powerful emerge, a resolve that ignited a flicker of rebellion against the inevitable. Through the chaos, I caught the gaze of the little girl. Her wide eyes brimmed with untainted hope, and for a moment, I was reminded of my own childhood innocence, the dreams I held dear. "You have to hold on to that hope," I whispered to her as I knelt down, wanting to be the anchor amidst the tempest. "No matter what happens, promise me you'll be brave." "I will," she replied, her voice barely a whisper, but her sincerity radiated like the sun breaking through clouds. Suddenly, the mother moved to my side, her eyes ablaze with determination. "We have to protect her," she said. "Whatever it takes." Then came a sound unlike any off-era scream, followed by a cacophony of footsteps, a stampede approaching too rapidly to dismiss. I blinked, trying to take it all in, confusion clawing at my brain as I turned to face the looming figure. "Your resolve is commendable," he said, his smirk hidden beneath the shadows. "But valor without wisdom is a reckless endeavor." I took a deep breath, heart racing as the chaos grew around us. But hidden within that chaos, I noticed something that hadn't been there before, a flicker of light weaving through the threatening darkness, a beacon of hope. "Let's not play their game," James interrupted, pulling my attention back. "Together, we can find a way." Confidence radiated from him like a shield against the unknown. "Maybe there's a door we can use to escape." It was the timid suggestion of one of the onlookers, his voice almost drowned by the rising noise, yet it cut through the tension, sparking possibility amidst the dread. "Then we need to act now," I shouted, urgency propelling me into action. I grabbed the little girl's hand, instinctively intertwining my fingers with hers as I moved towards the far wall where a gleam caught my eye. "Over here." But just as I started toward the potential escape, the sudden realization of betrayal washed over me like ice-cold water. "Wait!" I shrieked, halting everyone behind me. What if this is just a trap? What if this leads us back to? But before I could finish, the figure raised his arm, motioning to his lieutenants. It was electric. Time slowed, my heart a bitter drum in my chest. "You're right to question everything," he said, voice silky like the wind before a storm. "We are only following a thread woven by your choices. Follow the light, and you will find it only leads you deeper into the darkness." From the corner of my eye, I noticed shadows shifting unnaturally, like the fabric of our reality rippling inwards, and for a fleeting instant a memory washed over me. A moment I thought I had buried long ago, of a promise made under starlit skies, of laughter and warmth that felt almost real. "Mommy!" the little girl cried, tears welling in her wide eyes, her voice pulling me back as she latched onto her mother, feeling her trepidation ripple through the air. Did I realize then that the path before us might lead us not only toward danger but could also open doors to truths we had yet to understand, truths tied to my own past? No. I couldn't entertain that thought now. Otherwise, it could consume me. With the sound of distant footsteps echoing closer and closer, I clenched my fists, raising my chin defiantly. "We move now," I shouted. "Together, no matter what happens, we have to believe we can break this cycle." But in that very moment, the ground beneath us trembled, shadows elongating into claws reaching hungrily, and I realized with dawning terror that perhaps the figure was right. Some doorways should remain forever closed. "Don't leave me!" the little girl cried again, desperation wrapping around my heart like a vice. But just as we stepped forward, something small and unexpected broke through the Chao-san. Unexpected kind act from the crowd behind, as one of the women sifted through the darkness and found a flickering candle, its light dancing brilliantly against the encroaching shadows. "Light! We need to follow the light!" she shouted, energy coursing through the room, igniting a spark of hope that momentarily pushed the rushing darkness back. But as we rushed toward the candle, wanting desperately to grasp that flicker of hope, the figure laughed as if mocking our defiance. "You're chasing shadows, and soon you will understand the price of that hope." The pressure in the air shifted as footfalls echoed like thunder, rapidly approaching, and with one shattering revelation: what if the girl was the key to this darkness? Time seemed to stop as I looked at her shining face that mirrored the flickering light, and dread washed over me that I couldn't let her go. But perhaps I was wrong to gather hope in this way. "Together!" I shouted, urging everyone toward the glowing flame, but a chilling realization gripped my heart. In my desperation to save them, what had I just unleashed into our lives? The shadows lunged forward as we surged towards the candle, but unknown forces swept it away, plunging us into darkness once more. A reminder that while light may flicker, some shadows never truly fade at all, and as the final vestiges of our sanctuary caved in around us, uncertainty locked grips with my resolve, whispering one damning truth: the real reckoning had only just begun. The darkness consumed us like a tide, swallowing up our voices, leaving only the sound of scattered breaths mingling with the chaos. Shadows swirled, grasping at our legs and pulling us back into a chasm of uncertainty. My heart raced, and the frantic beat echoed in my ears as I fought to keep the little girl close, finding solace only in the warmth of her tiny hand gripping mine tightly. "What do we do now?" the mother cried, her voice breaking, panic threading through her tone. The candle, where did it? Before she could finish, a low rumble resonated from the depths of the gathering shadows, interrupting us with an ominous warning. "You think light is your salvation," the figure sneered, stepping closer, his silhouette blurring with the menace surrounding him. "But it will only reveal the truth you're too blind to see." "Shut up!" everyone chimed in at once, their voices rising in protest against the creeping despair. But the figure merely reveled in our unease, eyes gleaming like a predator's. "I wouldn't let him take our hope, I couldn't." "Listen," I pressed, trying to pierce the fog of uncertainty. "We need to stand together. That candle, it didn't just bring light, it brought us all together. There's strength in that." I turned to James, who had stepped closer, eyes glinting with the reflection of faith I desperately hoped would shield us. "Help me talk to them. Remind everyone we're not alone." He grabbed a nearby chair, positioning it against the far wall as a makeshift barrier, defiantly creating space for us amidst the encroaching shadows. "Everyone, gather together," he called out, strong and unwavering, and one by one, they came, the flickers of humanity fighting to stay together. Then, just as the tides of despair threatened to pull us under, I felt a gentle tug at my shirt. It was the little girl, her eyes wide and innocent yet brimming with so much wisdom. "Are we lost?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, but it cut through the noise like a quiet truth that I knelt to meet her heartfelt gaze, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. "Not if we stay together. Hope exists even in the darkness. That's what makes us stronger, but, what if the darkness is stronger?" She countered, a small tremor of fear coloring her voice, a tremor too familiar to me that we have to believe it isn't, I replied, my heart racing. The words tasted bitter, uncertainty lingering in the air between us. Then, amidst the shadows twisting like tormented spirits, a flicker of warmth emerged. Another woman had found her way to us, a candle held aloft, its fire flickering defiantly. With her small act of bravery, she breathed life into the gloom and lit another path. "Well past the light," she said with determination, walking closer, drawing everyone back to hope. In unison, we formed a chain of hands, the warmth of our bodies igniting the dimness around us, channeling that flicker of light. Yet as we began to move toward the comforting glow, a scream shattered the fragile moment, a haunting sound that echoed from outside our makeshift refuge. It was a cry tinged with raw terror, a reminder that danger lurked just beyond our sanctuary. Faces turned pale, breaths caught, and I could see that even the littlest light could not shield us from the truth we feared most. "Let's hurry," James urged, pulling the girl closer, but as we moved, the shadows deepened, swirling around us like a relentless storm, blocking our path. "Do you feel that?" I asked, my voice strained. The air thickened with a diabolical intention, like the very walls were closing in, breathing malevolence down our necks. In that spine-chilling instant, the figure's laughter floated to us from the murky abyss, wavering like smoke. "You cannot outrun your shadows. They are sewn into the very fabric of your being." Suddenly, the little girl slipped from my grasp, her small feet darting ahead, toward the heart of darkness, drawn by an unseen force. "Wait! No!" I screamed, fear erupting as I lunged forward, but she was quicker, her spirit inexplicably guiding her towards something I couldn't comprehend. "Come back!" her mother cried. But the shadows seemed to embrace the girl momentarily, cradling her tremulous frame-filled silhouette, enveloping her in an unsettling warmth. At that moment, clarity struck me like a thunderclap. She was more than just a little girl, she was somehow tied to this darkness, something intrinsic binding her to our fate. "We have to save her," I shouted, dread coursing through my veins. "And what if she's the price?" came the figure's voice, a chilling rasp underlining his words, each syllable reverberating with twisted anticipation. I froze, my heart racing, scrambling to catch up with what was happening. "No. I won't believe that." But the dread quickly mounted, shadows entwining their fingers around my resolve as uncertainty slashed at my heart. "Then face the truth," he declared, and my breath hitched as I stared into the abyss through which the girl had just vanished, uncertainty wrapping itself tightly around me, paralyzing my every thought. Would we save her, or would this be the moment we lost everything to darkness? Just then, in the distance, another sound reached my ears. The unmistakable sound of sirens, a flicker of hope fading into the chaos, mingling with the shadows. Would it all be too late? I stood at the precipice of dread, wrestling with the impulse to follow the thread of emerging light or to chase the girl into the unknown, both choices fraught with danger and uncertainty. With my heart shattering into a million pieces, the true battle before me ignited. The only path forward was a risk-laden leap into the very heart of darkness, or something that could lead us home. The shadows thickened as I stood frozen, torn between action and fear. My heart pounded like a war drum, arguing with reason, urging me to either chase after the girl or hold our fragile refuge. The sirens, those distant cries of urgency, seemed to hint at a reality much larger than our personal trauma, yet they felt like an echo, a muffled sound drowning in the terror that swirled around me. "Please," I pleaded into the darkness, desperation spilling from my lips. "Someone help me. We can't lose her." But my voice, though strong and unwavering, seemed small against the looming dread, swallowed by the shadows that danced mockingly nearby. Till I could see the silhouettes of our group, their faces shadows of fear and doubt, wavering like the embers of that flickering candle, fragile yet surprisingly potent. James stepped closer, his resolve unshaken, but uncertainty crept into his voice as he whispered, "What if she's meant to go, to face something we don't understand? No. We can't abandon her," I insisted, my conviction growing stronger every second. The words that had once held so much faith now felt insatiably black, tempting me to surrender to despair. "We're all intertwined in this. She chose to stand with us, we have to choose to stand for her." Without waiting for another heartbeat, I moved, ready to leap into the shadow's embrace that beckoned me like an ancient spirit. The moment my foot crossed the threshold, the darkness rippled around me as if gauging my intentions. Then came another desperate cry, cutting through the silence. A metal clang echoed like a warning. "I can't find her. She's gone. She's lost." The mother's voice reverberated in the silence, laced with raw, heart-wrenching anguish. The desperation it carried rent through me, urging me forth with a fierce determination. I could feel echoes of my own past resurface, churning in my heart. Fear was one thing, but the thought of not being able to help, the thought of missing a chance to bring someone back from despair was unbearable. "Look!" I shouted, pointing toward the shadows. "There. Follow me." My voice went up, lifting courage we had buried beneath layers of loss. And as I plunged deeper into the abyss, shadowy tendrils clawed at my skin, whispering tormented secrets. I pushed on, feeling a now familiar warmth wash over me amidst my fear. Was it the flickering hope, or was it something more tangible? Something that led me closer to her. As I journeyed through the oppressive darkness, glimmers of light floated through the air, illuminating fragments of memories, surfaces shimmering like dreams chased awry. What if she was lost for good? Panic surged within me, and I wrestled with the realization that this was a journey we could not back away from. Every step was laced with dread, yet I could still feel the faint pulse of purpose in my veins. "Stay with me," I called back to our group. "We can't give up hope. We are stronger together." The shadows thinned momentarily as we moved, as if granting us passage at my insistence, and just ahead, I caught sight of a young figure, curled against the wall, a silhouette of fragility with the girl's unmistakable features. "Help!" she whimpered, caught in a fragile bubble of despair. "Hold on. We're coming!" I shouted as adrenaline ignited my movements, racing forward. I reached for her, fingers brushing against the tip of her hair when the very shadows that had once seemed ephemeral now turned hungry, clawing at my limbs. Muffled whispers filled the air, as hidden fears began to take form, visions invading my mind of what lay beyond the veil, and then I heard it, dark laughter, seeping from the cracks of uncertainty. "You really think you can save her? The shadows are her refuge. This is her home now." Sweat dripped down my brow, my breath turning shallow. Even as I struggled against my fears, I couldn't shield myself from the truth that pierced through the veils. In this darkness, we might all face the things we had tried to flee. "Don't listen," I yelled, turning back to the others who were edging closer, bolstering each other against the storm of despair encroaching on our perimeter. I felt James grasp my forearm, a comforting squeeze grounding me amidst the chaos. "You're right," he declared, his voice rising against the dark. "We have the power to choose. She is family, our sister in this battle." Everyone nodded, their faces set with unwavering determination. Just as I neared the girl, ready to bridge our worlds, a pulse of energy surged from within, the very shadows threatening to consume us. The darkness quivered, and for just an instant hope flickered like a distant star against a hazy sky, awakening the essence of light embedded in our union. But, before I could reach her, the shadows roared and the girl vanished into the blackness, swallowed whole, dissolving into shadows that intertwined in a sorrowful embrace. Heartbeats flickered in sync, shared gasps echoing out behind me as everyone remained rooted in place, held against an unseen force. No. I cried out, but all that answered was the sinister whisper of the figure as he faded into the inky abyss. "Illegitimate hopes shall lead to your ruin." "But hope breathes in acceptance, doesn't it?" Shivers crept through my spine, and as if to confirm the truth, the shadows thickened, remolding themselves and drifting apart, revealing a new path only filled with desolation. I turned back toward our group, but beneath fear still swelled something unexpected, an ember of courage fueled by defiance. Wait, there's a way. I couldn't give I needed to keep reaching for hope, to keep believing that even shadows could be transformed into light. Together, we can chase away this darkness. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't lost her. This was only the beginning, a chapter deep within the unfolding story. I took a deep breath, ready to forge ahead, knowing the distance between darkness and hope had narrowed through our bonds. Just then, a sound pierced through the air, liquid laughter, a beautiful melody amidst the chaos. But it was wrong, it held a darkness that set my heart racing anew. I turned, and within that fleeting instant, the weight of a revelation descended upon me like an avalanche. What if there was more to this dark figure than I ever anticipated? What if the truth about the girl's bond to the darkness was entangled in something far greater, something buried deep beneath layers of anguish waiting to be unearthed? The sirens drew closer, a reminder that escape was approaching, but they were no longer the priority. We needed to unravel this mystery, face whatever awaited us in the heart of shadows, and bring her back. She was our hope, and the threads weaving us together pulsed with potential, a force far stronger than the emptiness. And yet, as the laughter twirled away into the wind, that sense of dread returned, heavier and more suffocating. Would any light make it through the shadows? Or was this sinister laughter the final warning of all that was about to unfold? The storm was far from over, and I stood resolute, heart racing, ready to charge into an uncertain fate, clinging to hope, just as the darkness flourished around us. The shadows around us felt personal, each tendril whispering doubts and fears that echoed within my mind. I clenched my fists, resolute in my decision, yet uncertainty clawed at me, relentless. What if leading our group deeper into this darkness would only bring more suffering? The laughter still hung in the air, a haunting reminder of what lurked beyond the veil, that we must keep moving. I declared, the strength in my voice fighting against hesitation. She is out there, and we aren't losing anyone else. James stepped forward beside me, his gaze searching. But what if the darkness is a part of her now? The figure made it sound like she chose this. No, I replied, shaking my head vehemently. We all choose to find one another, and that choice matters more than any despair chasing us down. A chorus of murmurs rose from our group, the words breathed life into our shared resolve. The stillness warned us, but so did the urgency of the love we held. Leaving no one behind meant something fierce. Cut through the layers of dark and forged light. With every step into the thickening shadows, the weight seemed to grow, suffocating hope as the atmosphere shifted around us. It was living, breathing darkness, an entity of its own, crawling deeper into our bones with every heartbeat. The shadows pulled at my ankles, threatening to unmoor me from my purpose. I felt fears and regrets, long buried, rise to the surface like specters. Remember why we fight. I shouted, turning to our trembling group. We love her and each other. Let that be our guiding light. At that moment, a flicker of warmth flared in James' eyes, reflecting the gratitude that was building in our hearts. Slowly, others began to nod, shoulders squaring with newfound strength. That we pressed forward, moving in unison, and with every echoing footstep, the darkness seemed to acknowledge us as we navigated deeper into its heart. Time warped, each second felt like an eternity. The laughter faded, replaced by the softer cries of the girl, a marionette tangled in shadows, begging for release, a heart separating from the rest. The air grew heavy as we ventured further, and I swore I could feel the weight of countless eyes upon us, nameless shadows thickening with a sense of anticipation. An ominous chill swept through the group, chilling our resolve for just a moment. But then, a small voice echoed through the dark, fragile but distinct. Help! It resonated, laced with a plea that pierced through my heart like a knife. Please, come back for me. Did you hear that? James exclaimed, his excitement palpable. We're getting closer. But even he faltered, visibly torn between belief and apprehension. How can we trust it's her? Because it has to be, I replied, firm in my conviction even as fear bubbled beneath the surface. This darkness, its power is fueled by our doubts. If the girl is here, we cannot turn away. Around us, shadows twisted in response, the air vibrating with whispers that rattled against my resolve. Sudden gusts of wind swept through, eerie firms of silhouettes merging into one chaotic swirl. My heart raced, not with despair but with the understanding that we were dangerously close to something monumental. And then, just as the cries of hopelessness crescendoed into anguished howls, a bright light flickered in the distance, drawing me in a beacon amidst a swirling void of darkness. "Wait!" I called to the group, pointing. There, as we ran toward it, the light danced, pulsing rhythmically, illuminating the shape of a young girl, her eyes wide with innocence lost but a glimmer of hope threading through her tears. "I knew you would come!" she screamed, voice laced with what felt like energy pouring from her very being, but as I reached to embrace her, the shadows rose against me with a ferocity that stopped me in my tracks. Panic coursed through the others as they struggled to maintain their footing against the oppressive force pushing back. "Don't let it win!" we shouted collectively, digging deep to summon the courage entwined from our bonds. I inched closer, feeling the warmth of the girl's presence despite the boundaries formed by darkness. In that charged moment, she stared into my eyes, a recognition flashing as she whispered, "You've always known." Everything stopped. Time slid into stillness, and I felt the jolt of understanding and fear. Always known what? But just then, a voice, rich and dark, filled the void. "The shadows hold her truth. But it will cost you everything to find it." The weight of those words crashed around me, luring panic as the shadows began to shape a sinister figure, their laughter echoing like thunder, mocking our hope. "You cannot save her without losing something, or someone, dear to you." Heart pounding, my thoughts raced through memories of sacrifice and trust. What were we prepared to offer in exchange for here are our connections? A shocking realization began to unfold. This had always been more than about rescuing one girl. In facing this darkness, we risked revealing the hidden fractures behind every loved one's mask, learning truths we weren't prepared to confront. But as the laughter closed in, crowding around us like a storm, a sudden tremor shook the ground beneath, throwing us off our feet. Darkness and light collided violently, fracturing the shadows that had once seemed impenetrable. In the confusion, I glanced back at the girl, desperate for clarity, searching her eyes for the truth that echoed beneath our bonds. But before the weight of my question could take form, a flash of light enveloped me. What had this darkness taken from us? As the light dimmed, I felt the ground beneath shift, the shadows contorting back, rearranging reality and reason. The grip of despair tightened, holding us fast. A new path pulled me in like a tide, and I had a sinking feeling it would require a sacrifice greater than I could have ever anticipated. With newfound trepidation, I faced the shadows and clutched my heart, whispering fiercely through trembling lips, "I will not abandon any of you." But deep down, I feared the darkness was ready to take more than I had imagined, and as the echoes of laughter rippled through the air, I couldn't shake the feeling that the confession waiting to be unveiled would shatter everything I had ever believed in. The world felt suspended in an agonizing stillness, the flickering light casting long shadows that danced like phantoms along the walls. Fear pressed down on us, thick and unyielding, yet in that moment, I clung to hope. The girl stood before me, her small figure framed by the shadows that had grown restless, swirling around her as if beckoning her to join them. "I'm here!" I shouted, desperation filling my lungs like lead. "We're here to take you home." The air crackled with electric tension as the figure materialized in the darkness, laughter bubbling up like poison. "Do you think the choice to return is hers, or yours?" The voice was cold yet filled with a sickening warmth, slithering through the space like smoke. I felt my heart race wildly as the shadows seemed to pulse, absorbing my words. "She belongs to the darkness now. You will never take her back." His taunt ignited a fire within me, clashing against the echoes of uncertainty that gnawed at my mind. I stepped toward the girl once more, urgency flooding my veins. "You're not alone. We're stronger than this. You are loved." I didn't just want to pull her from the darkness, I needed her to know she was wanted, that fear didn't bind her, we did hope and love tying us together through thick and thin. She blinked up at me, confusion and doubt swirling in her vivid eyes. "But I'm afraid. They've told me I can't leave." Her voice trembled, and the heartbeat of the darkness pulsed louder, reverberating like a war drum. I dropped to my knees, my heart full to the brim. "But they're wrong," I breathed, forcing my way through the fear that threatened to suffocate me. "You have power. You can choose." Another rumble of laughter filled the air, and my rage flared. "This isn't their choice. This is yours." Just as those words echoed into the void, a shiver of flickering light weaved through the shadows, illuminating the little girl's tear-streaked face. "I want to go home," she whispered, and in that moment, I saw the tiny ember of defiance blooming in her. We locked eyes, a promise passing between us, and I felt the bonds of fear begin to fray. But before I could embrace her, the shadow figure stretched out his hand, and with it came the harsh reality of our choices. "You will pay the price for her freedom," he declared, his voice crashing over me like thunder, dark and formidable. My breath hitched as the shadows twisted, pulling me back into an abyss of haunting memories, the faces of people lost, bonds broken that threatened to engulf me. This was the reckoning the figure spoke of. But in that moment of clarity, I realized our choices, however painful, could lead to healing too. "I'm not afraid," I replied, clarity washing over my words like a cleansing wave. "I'd give anything to keep her safe." "Anything?" he challenged, eyes glimmering with wicked delight. The shadows hissed, drawing closer, demanding my next move, while the fear that had replaced the warmth of hope felt nearly suffocating. What was I willing to sacrifice? The thought twisted my gut, making me question everything I thought I knew about the essence of love and family. What would it take to free her? What were the hidden truths lurking in the darkness of our collective grief? "Step forward then. Choose," he taunted once more, extending a hand, shrouded in shadowy tendrils that squirmed with malevolent hunger. In that instant, I felt something colossal shift within the core of my being. In the shadows behind him, I glimpsed the people I had loved enough to lose, their sacrifices intertwining with mine, binding us through the noise of suffering. And with that awakening, I took a step beyond the precipice of fear. I lunged towards the girl. "You deserve to be loved and free. You don't belong to the darkness, none of us do." The shadows roared, coiling around us like an angry serpent. Time swirled together, moments splintering into a kaleidoscope of agony and regret, as if each shadow held a story. A realization ignited within me. We are the light against our own darkness, an unwavering reflection of love. I felt energy surged as if the very air vibrated with the truth I had uncovered. The girl's frightened gaze fluttered toward the shadows and then back at me, and with all the love I could muster, I held out my hand. "Let's break this curse together," I whispered fiercely. "You are brave, and we will face this darkness as one." The darkness pulsed once more, enveloping me in whispers of doubt, urging me to surrender. But I tightened my grip, willing the power of love flickering within me to outshine the shadows. "You have the strength to choose," I shouted. And with that, something inside her seemed to shift. It was a brief moment, a flicker of acceptance blossoming in the pool of her eyes. "I choose to be free," she cried out, and it was as if the words shattered the veil that held us captive, sending ripples of light radiating through the room. The shadows screamed, banshees lamenting the loss of their claim on her spirit. With that cry, the darkness recoiled, firing back as I felt a surge of warmth envelop us, transcending fear and pain, weaving through the moment like golden threads. The light swelled around us, pushing against the weight of despair. In that powerful moment of acceptance, I felt a change washing over me. The shadows slipped away, their icy grip of despair released, and amidst the chaos, the girl lunged toward me, arms open wide. I caught her, enveloping her in my embrace, no longer a prisoner of despair. A wave of warmth surged through us, echoing the freedom of choice, a liberation that bound our spirits across eternity. "My sweet girl, I've got you," I whispered through tears, and I meant it. We would not lose each other again. All the shadows seemed to dissolve into whispers as moonlight beamed through the remnants of darkness, illuminating the path forward. The echoes of laughter transformed into harmonious songs ringing through our hearts, dissolving every trace of doubt. We were free, a disjointed yet bound family by shared struggles, uniting once more under the embrace of love. As we stepped into the light, hand in hand, it dawned on me shadows would always be there, but so would our power to rise against them. It was a vow whispered within my heart. And as we took the first step forward, standing resolute against the horizon of endless possibilities, I found my voice one last time, unshakable and strong. And we promise to always choose love. Those words filled the air, a closing hymn that spoke of uncertain beginnings and remarkable journeys, intertwined with the everlasting flow of hope, a powerful reminder that darkness, no matter how overwhelming, could never extinguish the light of love guiding us home.